Welcome to Thrive Radio. I'm your host, Amy Montgomery, entrepreneur and digital marketing agency owner. Today, my guest is Teresa Bruni. She's an energy healer who assists individuals in breaking through obstacles that prevent them from living life to the fullest. She believes that everyone deserves healing, physical, emotional, and spiritual, resulting in an abundant and fulfilled life. Teresa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yeah. So can you share your journey with us, how you became a coach and why you decided to focus on healing?
So my journey is a long one, so I'll try to shorten the story. It was in the late 1980s that I found myself on full disability, and I had become so sick that I could no longer work my job. And 7 years into that journey, I realized that medical science was never going to get me well, not if we continued to do things as we were doing them. And I decided that I needed to find my own way back. So through a lot of introspection and a lot of research and figuring out what I could do to help myself get well, I began to recover. Part of that recovery was dealing with a lot of unresolved emotional issues that were a result of both a traumatic childhood, lots of trauma in my childhood, which then led into an abusive marriage. Now I was out of that marriage, but all of that unresolved trauma built up and eventually caused my body to break down. And that's how I got sick. So guess what? How getting well involved uncovering all of that trauma and finally dealing with it. And when I was able to do that, when I was brave enough to do that, my body began to recover. Now, my journey to recovery took a full 3 years. Let's remember that in the mid-'80s, there was no internet. So it wasn't as easy as me going to Google and doing a search for how do I get better or how do I heal my energy. I had to turn within. And I had to do a lot of my research in books. So lots of time at the library and in bookstores reading through information. When I went back to work, I wanted to give back what I had learned and teach people the power that they have inside to heal, but I had no idea how to do that. Life coaching was just new on the scene. There were more executive coaches than life coaches. So I just went back into technology. And that satisfied me for about another 6 years. And then I had another epiphany and I was like, I have to make a change. I'm not happy here. I call that period of my life being put in the universal dryer. So the universe shoved me in a dryer and tumbled me around really hard until I was let out of the dryer and decided that it was finally time for me to teach people what I knew. And that's when I changed paths.
Wow. It's amazing. And walking through your journey, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my journey, and I think everyone should be, because at the end of the day, you would never be where you are now if not for that journey. And we all, I believe this to the depth of my being, on any given day, we're all doing the very best that we can. Please don't have regrets, no matter how bad you think your journey was. And we all have struggles. We all have pains. I'm not the only person who was traumatized as a child. But without all of that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
How do you help individuals find blocks that are holding them back?
Well, I'm an intuitive listener. And what that means is I not only hear what my clients are saying, but I also hear what they're not saying. And from there, we can uncover the blocks. Now, if a client comes to me and they're having health issues or relationship issues or money issues, then we kind of poke around and we try to figure out where the blocks are and how they got put there. So what happens is when we're born, we come into this world as perfect little beings, and then immediately the conditioning begins. So we have parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and everybody who wants the best for us. And out of that desire of wanting the best for us, they begin to condition us. Do this, don't do that. This is good. This is bad. This is right. This is wrong. By the time we get into our 20s, we have all of this conditioning. And we're influenced not only by friends and family, but by clergy, school teachers, friends. And it only takes a little bit of trauma, maybe getting shamed in school, maybe the teacher embarrassed you. And so now as an adult, you have imposter syndrome. Okay. So we don't have to necessarily go back and analyze every aspect of your life, but we kind of poke around and we see where that block might have been created and what beliefs you may be holding that aren't really true.
So there's a lot of trauma work that you can do that is painful, right? So what kind of trauma work do you do, and is it painful for people to go through?
You're right. There is a lot of different types of work that you can do to heal trauma. First of all, I want to encourage people to know that healed trauma is such a better world to live in. So even if it is a bit painful, I can guarantee you that it's worth going through it, because once you're through it, it's like driving through a bad storm. Once you're through it, you can relax and life is calm again. What I like about the work that I do, I work with a modality called Psych, and there's lots of information on my website for anyone that wants to learn more about that. We don't have to relive the trauma. So it's not like therapy. It's not like we're going to spend the next year talking about every bad thing that happened to you. That's not what we need to do. We look at what's getting in your way and we work on processing that trauma. It's usually fairly quick and effective. Sometimes we can get it done in one session, depending on what the traumas are.
It's great. So can you explain energy healing and how you found it to be useful?
Yes. So yeah, I was just lucky enough that the professional coaching institute that I enrolled in had an energy leadership index assessment, and I'm also certified in that. And so what that helped me to understand was how energy works. And when we talk about energy, I'm talking about both your energy level. You have a lot of energy, you want to go to the gym, or you have no energy and you want to lay on the couch, lethargic. And also your emotional energy level. So where are you emotionally? Are you happy or are you sad? They really play hand in hand. So they're completely connected. So if you take a person, in my work, we call it victim mentality. We all fall into victim mentality. It's easy to feel like a victim. All you have to do is get caught in a traffic jam and be on a major highway and get caught in a traffic jam, and the nearest exit is 10 miles down the road. So you're stuck, okay?
There's nothing worse.
And so bam, you can fall into that victim mentality just that fast. And it is the victor who says, okay, I have an opportunity here. What can I do with my time while I'm stuck in this traffic jam? So that's a small example of the different levels of energy. Now, how do I work with them? I teach people that every time you reach for those higher levels of energy, there are all kinds of wonderful things happening. First of all, you're turning on your healing response. Secondly, you're empowering your intuition. So you're starting to get those creative downloads that just seem magical. And you have to I need paper. I have to write down that idea. You are inspired to take a right turn instead of a left turn, and you miss a big traffic jam. You run into the perfect person out in public. You've been wanting to meet this person for a long time, and suddenly you're there. When you're living life in the higher levels of energy, life is magical and life happens for you. When you're living in the lower levels of energy, you're pretty much blocking yourself off to all the things that you want in life.
It's so true. I can so identify with that. But in what ways can you help someone dealing with chronic health conditions?
When a person is ready to get well, and it does take that readiness when we've had enough and we say, okay, that's it. I mean, that's what happened for me. I said, I'm done with this. I don't want to live like this any longer. When a person is ready to take that step and I work with them as the individual that they are. And we look at what is available to them. I encourage them to see their healing as a well-rounded approach, take the best that Western medicine has to offer, and also include alternative therapies. Look at their nutrition, look at their energy, look at exercise, or even what I call passive exercise. Even if you can't physically exercise, you can still get a massage, or you can ask your physicians to put you in physical therapy where someone else is moving your body. And we also look at increasing those energy levels so that we can ignite the healing process, ignite the immune system, and allow the healing process to begin.
So, what are some of your client success stories?
The biggest thing that happens for my clients is they have huge aha moments. And they suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I didn't see it that way. This block has been in front of me all this time, and I never even recognized it. It's almost like carrying 100-pound backpack and not even knowing that you're doing it. You're just walking through life with all this weight on you. And then once that weight comes off, you're living a totally different life. One of my best success stories is a client who came to me for a health issue. And through what they learned in the program with me, they applied those same principles to the rest of their life. And they came back 3 years later and said to me, after working with you, my entire life has changed. Not only did I get a grip on my health, but I'm in a solid relationship now. I own a house. I'm happy. I'm fulfilled. Life is good. So those are some of the changes that people can expect. They'll see movement not just in one area of life, but in all areas of their life.
Love that. So, what do you think has been your truth that has gotten you this far in your journey?
To be true to myself. You know, Amy, I mean, it's so easy for us to compromise and say, you know, I know that's the right thing to do, but what will people think of me? Or I really need the money. Let me take that client because I really need the money. And as a fellow entrepreneur, you know, that always backfires, right?
Yes.
So the biggest lesson I have learned is to be true to myself, to follow that inner voice and that inner guidance. It will never steer you wrong.
So, if you were able to give yourself one piece of advice when you first started out, what would it be?
So that advice would be who you really are. And as you and I discussed in our first meeting together, I don't call myself a coach because, you know, there are a lot of coaches out there. There are business coaches, there are financial coaches, there are wellness coaches, career coaches. And I found that calling myself a coach was putting me in a box. And that's why I started to call myself a healer instead. And the minute I stepped into that power, and it was scary. I thought, oh, how could I call myself a healer? That's pretty bold, right?
Yeah.
But the minute I stepped into that power and I changed my branding and I stopped calling myself coach, the universe just opened the doors for me and all these clients started coming in.
That's wonderful.
So for me, coaching is one of my skills. And I am a highly skilled coach. As I mentioned, I'm an intuitive listener. But at the end of the day, I help people heal.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
Teresa, if there's somebody that's listening that would love to work with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Best way to reach me is to go out to my website, which is my name, teresabruni.com. There are lots of free resources on my website. There's a ton of information about mindset and removing limiting beliefs. There's a contact me form there. And if they're interested in learning more about working with me, there's also a discovery session request form that they can fill out.
Perfect. And I'll put that link down below. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, definitely. And if you're listening, you want more information about this podcast or upcoming shows, you can visit acalltothrive.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.